Skyblock has items. Some items are good, some items are bad. You probably watched the last video, and this is a sequel to that, but in reverse, because without Skyblock content, videos can be hard to make. Anyway, I'm not gonna waste your time here. The Pigman sword and Pigman pet are barely rated at all, yet there's still people out there who give it a bit of credit for some reason. At level 100, which you feasibly will never reach using this pet, because you will move on to something more useful before managing to scrape 20 million combat HP, and for this to overtake the aspect of the dragons, which bear in mind is only a tiny improvement, the pet needs to be level 66, which is about 1.5 million combat HP, which is a whole lot of grinding for an improvement of 15 damage. It's also not exactly the cheapest thing, as a sword and pet is basically half the price of a Midas from the auction house. I'd rather you give me your coins as contraband than buy either of these. Please. Hey, do you know what's also overrated? The YouTube rank, which you could help us get to by subscribing right now. Do it. The Mosquito Bow is a 40 million coins downgrade from the Revenant Bow, and the main arrow deals less damage than a regular Revenant Bow's 3 arrows combined, even when using the ability. Sure, the healing is great, but as an archer, if you ever have to heal, you're probably in a terrible situation anyway, so that doesn't really apply. Stick with a Revenant's bow or even a Magma bow, because the difference is honestly minimal and arguably the cheaper option are better than the Mosquito Bow, unless it receives some huge buff. Revenant Armor is the one Slayer set that you don't really need. Sure, it's a cheap way to deal with Revenant horrors, but you shouldn't be doing any tier 4 Slayers unless you're endgame anyway. Not to mention that this set slows you down because your damage output is quite low in comparison to using Superior. Overall, a disappointing set you'd be better off not touching. Pack Armor is super unusual, as it's the only Slayer set to have 2 armor sets, of which the armor set does not really help against the boss, nor does it help anywhere else, because the stat boosts are significantly lower than Superior Armor. It's quite a bit cheaper, but you ideally don't want 3 Berserkers going into dungeons alone, because that's just a terrible team strategy. And on top of that, most of the boosts are only applied to animals, and I'm really not seeing any animals in dungeons. The Frozen Scythe is a new in Skyblock terms, weapon that is super underwhelming in damage and ability. The cooldown is way too long, and even with magic scaling being fixed, it still deals basically no damage to enemies and is super disappointing, especially given the cost to craft this item. The Golem Sword's stats are way too low for an item comparable in price to the Raider's axe, and its ability is disappointing, as even with magic scaling, you won't be dealing any real damage with it. Also, the ability is super annoying to hear that sound in lobbies, and it wouldn't be a video about bad things if I didn't mention how overwhelmingly shit the Guardian pet is. Seriously, I don't get how people can swear by this thing. Even at its best, it's the equivalent to 3 sword swings against a single target once every 3 seconds. This pet should stay in the water where it came from. Also, nobody cares about enchanting level. That's a skill boost, it doesn't count. Which items would you guys like to see receive a buff in the future? Leave a comment if you want to survive. Do it.